I have a piece of advice for anyone who wants to go out in the world and do good work and find inner peace. Become a monk. We are overstuffed with evil nuns and convents. Here are my immediate thoughts on Immaculate. Immaculate is the latest in the Nunsploitation genre that is directed by Michael Mohan and is produced by and stars Sydney Sweeney. Sweeney plays an American nun who embarks on a new journey when she joins a remote convent in the Italian countryside. However, her warm welcome quickly turns into a living nightmare when she discovers her new home harbors a sinister secret and unspeakable horrors. So yeah, this is the latest in the religious/nunsploitation genre that includes movies like Agnes of God, To the Devil a Daughter, The Nun from the Conjuring franchise, The Other Hell, and Ken Russell's The Devils, and these movies tend to make some form of horrific elements with convents, Catholicism, and nuns. And man, this is a subgenre that is so tired. So very, very tired. We get a lot of the same tropes in these movies, whether it's upside down crosses, evil nuns, evil convents, disappearing people, exorcisms, and other types of tropes. Let's get to the performances. Sydney Sweeney, I thought, was really good as Sister Cecilia. She plays someone who is very devout and wishes to impress God so much she is willing to uproot herself from Detroit and move all the way to Italy. There are moments of really great acting from her in this movie. In fact, there are two particular sequences where Michael Mohan holds the camera on her face and we get to see her act a range and gamut of emotions, and she is so very good in those moments. And it's clear that she is trying to show herself as a talented big screen actor. If anyone follows her career, with Euphoria or The White Lotus on television, she really brings the goods. And with her acting as a producer on this film as well, it's clear that she didn't want to leave any doubts to her talent. Also, if you are one of those simps who really only care about Sydney Sweeney's tits, I suppose there are a few moments in this movie where I can say you would be tastefully satisfied. Alvaro Morte as Father Sal, sort of the leader of this convent, is okay. He has a very charming demeanor at first, but as time goes by, it is clear that he has more sinister motivations at play. And that's really not a spoiler. That's really par for the course for these kind of movies. I like Benetta Porcoli as Sister Gwen, the rebellious nun who befriends Sister Cecilia, who also meets a really crazy fate at the end of this movie. Michael Mohan and Sydney Sweeney has worked together in the past before on a movie called The Voyeurs, which honestly is a film that left me a little cold. But here in Immaculate, it is clear that Mohan and Sweeney know exactly what type of film they want to tell visually. And this movie is told in 3 acts, or really 3 trimesters. Tonally, this film has this sense of reverence to it as we follow Sydney Sweeney or Sister Cecilia in this convent, but there is also this omnipresent sense of dread and gloom that hangs over everyone in this convent that I really appreciated. The score for this movie is excellent as well. Will Bates is able to take a very simple piece of music and use it very effectively to help with the tone and the mood of the film when it is used properly. And that is really the main flaw I have with this movie. It is really fighting itself to be an elevated horror movie or a run-of-the-mill nunsploitation film from the 2020s. On one hand, we have Rosemary's Baby in a convent, so really the main plot of this movie is that Sydney Sweeney finds herself pregnant even though she is a virgin, hence the title Immaculate. The convent deems this as a miracle, And honestly, that would be good enough on its own as a plot. And Mohan is able to direct really great scenes of tension and dread and mood and atmosphere, and is really great at building tension and suspense, but then an unnecessary jump scare would happen or a dream sequence would happen. And I'm just like, why? On the other hand, it feels like this movie is borrowing from both versions of Suspiria, where we have our main character as a fish out of water. She is in a new country, she doesn't speak the language fluently, and I honestly thought Cecilia not being able to speak Italian fluently would actually come back to bite her in this movie, and that would have been something that could have been explored, but it is ignored, and that was actually something that was very frustrating. There were actually a couple of jump scares that were really effective, and they weren't done just for the sake of jump scares, but they actually added depth to character. For example, we see a very quick glimpse of the near-death experience Cecilia encountered that turned her life around, and honestly, I wish that there was a lot more moments like that, but instead we get a bunch of other jump scares that really just felt like studio notes. The movie is really trying. The camera moves really well. It's good at going around corners and making us think that we're going to peek around something that we probably shouldn't see. The mood is there. The tension is there. The suspense is there. There are moments that actually reminded me of Ari Aster, and that's a big compliment because Ari Aster is one of my favorite directors working today. And there are moments where Mohan is playing with space and shadow and darkness to really build the tension and suspense. And when the film does also concentrate on the quiet lives of the nuns, I really appreciated that as well. One of the things that are hilarious are some of the nuns actually are jealous of Sister Cecilia and her Immaculate Conception. One of them actually tries to murder her and is like, "It should have been me! It should have been me!" That shit was absolutely hilarious. And this movie actually gets points for me as well for having characters that actually fess up to inexplicable and unexplainable moments happening to them. But when that happens, the convent just really ignores them, and that's when we really realize that something nefarious is happening within the confines of this convent. Also, holy fuck, this movie was way more gory and violent than I expected. We get gnarly shots of someone's face split apart after they fall off of a building, someone's tongue getting cut out, and someone's face getting bludgeoned by a crucifix. Those are just some of the great gore effects that this movie gives us. Then we get a twist, and I won't spoil or reveal it, but it's sort of insane, very horrific, doesn't make a whole lot of sense, and is also sort of awesome, and I'm surprised no one's thought of it, especially when we know what we know now about genetics. Also, that third act is insane, and I really applaud Sydney Sweeney for going for it. The last 20 minutes of Immaculate is basically Sydney Sweeney being put through the ringer. And honestly, it's a pretty fearless performance. It did feel a touch like at the end that they were going for, we're going to be edgy and shocking just for the sake of it. I get what they were trying to do in the last 5 minutes of the movie, but yeah, it really did feel like shock factor for the sake of shock factor. Overall, Immaculate was a tale of 3 movies. One movie was a slow burn elevated horror film that looked to study someone who is very devout that realizes what they believe in may not be all that it seems. Another is the style of horror movies we have today, the Nunsploitation genre with the jump scares, the paper-thin characters, and the over-the-top gore. Then we get the final act of this movie, which is a short film of itself and goes balls to the wall, like a convent version of Ready or Not. Like I said, this movie was fighting itself. I really liked Sydney Sweeney in this, and I believe Michael Mohan did an admirable job directing. But Andrew Lobel's script was just a little too uneven and inconsistent for me. I wanted to like this movie more than I did, but at the end of the day, Immaculate is kinda mid. When this appears on streaming, that's really the best place for Immaculate to be. It really isn't worth the full price of admission at the theater. Just speaking my truth. What did you think of Immaculate? Share your thoughts, leave your comments, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and don't forget to hit that bell icon so you can get notifications as well. Thanks a lot, everyone. Take care.